G'day Internet. We got our stuff back from the machine shop, as you can see. It was the longest month of my life waiting for this to get done. But it is done, and I think I'm pretty happy with everything. It was about $2,000 for all the work that they did, which included boring this over and honing it and fitting the size against my 4 pistons and servicing this and servicing the cylinder head, which is wrapped up right now. And they also fixed my valve setup, if you remember the 2 videos ago. And they balanced my rotating assembly, which I didn't even know was a thing for piston engines, but it certainly is. So they balanced it, which is a more important thing than I initially realized. So it is definitely good that I'm working with a machine shop that knows what needs to be done. That being said, I'm still going to be the one to assemble this myself because I want to. This is kind of half of the fun of this whole hobby for me, is building stuff myself, for better or for worse. So we're being really careful on this whole thing, probably even more careful than we were on the rotary, to make sure that everything is clean and that we're not reusing anything that we shouldn't be reusing, and that's getting really expensive. You're really supposed to replace a shitload of stuff. Especially OEM stuff, or with OEM stuff. So this box right here is full of OEM Mazda parts, mostly timing related. Like you're supposed to get a new crankshaft bolt, this big ass guy. You're supposed to get, I really should, get a new, what the hell is this called? I can't brain right now. VVT actuator. The engine had 210,000 kilometers on it whenever it blew up, so it really is a good idea to do this stuff anyway. It's just doing it all at once, it is hurting my wallet significantly. We got ARP main bolts, or studs, that we'll talk about more later. We got head studs. These are ARP 2000s. I decided that L19s were too expensive, and I didn't like the fact that, you know, you can't touch them with your hands, and if you treat them just wrong, then they'll, you know, break in a couple of years. I don't want it to break in a couple of years, especially for a $500 set of head studs. So ARP 2000s are going to be plenty good for this purpose. And just look at the parts pile. Clutch stuff, clutch stuff. There's the old alternator. That's not new. I just cleaned that up. Here's our 4 pistons and 4 rods. Just today, I finished putting these together. Don't worry about that mark right there. Yes, that was me doing that whenever I installed the circlip. But I watched a video from Male, and they actually, they mark these up as well whenever they put these in sometimes. So that is nothing to be worried about. It's not anything that matters. It is just the, I guess it's a graphene coating that's on these that's wearing off. So piston number 3, rod number 3. Also, I didn't really properly address the fact that, holy crap, the bottom end block looks insane compared to what it used to. It used to be, you know, what a really old, dirty engine looks like. This is crazy. I have no idea what kind of chemical bath stuff they use, but that is amazing. That was worth every penny of me paying them to clean it. That is awesome. Look at how friggin' fresh it looks. But also, I just noticed this. I don't think it's going to matter. It just kind of annoys me with how expensive the machine work was. Why? What is that? I can feel that with my fingernail. That's a scratch. Probably from whenever they put the pistons in and fit the rings. And no, they wouldn't have put the pistons in here, but they would have put the rings in here and to gap them and stuff. So they just weren't very careful. I don't know how happy I am with that. There's a scratch right there. There's just like tiny little random scratches all over the place. Like if they had been a little bit more careful and, I don't know, like put a layer of tape on top of this or something to protect it, that wouldn't have happened. It doesn't matter. But me building this myself is giving me the opportunity to be very critical of the machine shop here. It's pretty good. It'll be fine. There's nothing that I think is actually going to cause a problem, but like, come on, man. Alright, so I've been working on this a little bit over the past couple of days, and I installed the crankshaft myself. For some reason, it was my first time working with a machine shop. I didn't really know what I was doing or what was involved or getting done. I'm learning here. I didn't bring them my bottom bearing saddle. So the bottom bearing caps for the mains on this engine, it's all one piece of aluminum, this whole thing. And I didn't bring that to the machine shop, so that did not give them the opportunity to check a couple of things I'll talk about in a sec. I also didn't have my main studs in yet. So I've upgraded to studs. I probably could have gotten away with using the OEM hardware here, but I ordered them, and they're installed right now. And I'll let ARP explain this better than I can. When changing from factory fasteners due to high-strength fasteners, clamping force and tolerances will change, might change. Therefore, it will be necessary to check the main bearing bores for proper size and out-of-round condition during installation of the studs, and align hone the cylinder block if necessary. So, basically what they are saying is that there is a possibility with some engines under some circumstances that by going from the factory torque to yield bolts here and here and, you know, all of them, it can actually squish this thing down so hard that it makes the where your bearings sit go out of round. I don't think that's happening with my engine, but it's something I really should have checked with the machine shop. So if I had sent them my bottom bearing saddle and if I had ordered the studs sooner and gave them that, they could have checked it. But here's what we did check, okay? I Plastigaged this, and I'll include some pictures now, and the Plastigage results were friggin' amazing. Every single Plastigage that squished down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these bearings was exactly 1.5 thou, maybe 1.7 thou, and that is absolutely smack dab where we want it to be. So and also on this engine, look at how goddamn big this piece of aluminum is. I really can't imagine that a little bit of extra torque on that and that. And it's kind of hard to tell how much extra torque it is as well, because the stock bolts are torque to yield, and you torque them to a certain foot poundage, and then it turns into an angle spec. So you really don't know what the foot pound rating is to actually tell you how much clamping force there is here. These go to 60 foot-pounds, which is not that insane, you know, considering that lug nuts are at 100. So I really don't think that there is a problem, but yes, this is something that I probably should have checked, and I guess I could have ordered a bore gauge, which I don't own right now, and check this for roundness. But honestly, man, I think it's totally fine. The Plastigage results were exactly within spec, and it spins like a dream. So I don't think there's a problem. I don't have any intention on taking these main bolts out again. She's ready to rock, as far as I'm concerned. Also, I got myself a brand new oil pump. Everything that I'm replacing with a brand new part on this, I have to go through like a mental acceptance stage that we're spending that much more money on this. Originally, I thought, yeah, we can use the original oil pump. Why not? It was working fine in the engine that this came from, but you really can't half-ass any of this stuff. This was about $300, which was about half the price of getting one from the Mazda dealership. So this is actually a Ford part number. I was reading some forums. You always read the forums. Reading forums will give you tips and tricks that otherwise you would never know. This is the exact same part, or at least it's completely compatible, and people in the Mazdaspeed community have praised this pump for being cheap and completely adequate. So that is a Ford part number in our Mazda engine. Really, it's a Ford engine. It's got FOMO Co. stampings all over the place. So this is basically the same engine, more or less, as a Ford Focus ST, which is why our Ford Focus ST intake manifold works with a little bit of finagling. Nice, smooth, oiled metal-on-metal noises compared to the unintended metal-on-metal noises.
Sad metal-on-metal noises.
Yes. Now that's super smooth. That's awesome. Alright, I sort of feel bad for how little I filmed while we worked on this, but we were focused on this, not on filming. Although I did bring my phone out a couple random times throughout the process. A lot of exciting things were done. We got, obviously, the pistons in there since the head is on it. We got all of the connecting rods connecting and torqued down to 55 foot-pounds, which is what the machine shop recommended I torque those to. And I bolted a couple other random things to it, like the oil filter thing. I don't know if I mentioned that already. I put the PCV plate on it just because it was easy. We got the head on it. I'm using ARP head studs. And we torqued those. I followed a very religious torquing procedure that was recommended by Speed Performance, where the final torque is 70 foot-pounds. They suggest you go to 35 on all of them and then loosen them like 3 times in a row. So 35, 0, 35, 0, 35, 0. And then you do your final torque, which is 25, 45, 70. So I think the idea behind that is like you're wearing the threads in by, or actually, no, that doesn't make sense. I guess it would just be pulling up on the threads because it's a stud. Can you even see the head of a stud? Not really. But anyway, hopefully that has given us very, very good, even clamping pressure on our head gasket there. This is an OEM head gasket, which is like 3 times more expensive than getting one off Rock Auto. But everybody says don't screw around with the head gasket, go OEM. It's a pretty critical part. So I did. I listened. Trying to listen every time somebody says use an OEM part, as expensive as that is. And just in the last day or so, I've started assembling the timing stuff. So these are new guides, new tensioner for the oil pump. I talked about the new oil pump itself. I've cheaped out and I'm deciding I'm reusing the tensioner because I don't think that this is something that really wears or, you know, degrades over time as long as it doesn't get effed up with metal or anything. This is the one from the Speed 6. So it didn't see any metal go through it. I cleaned it out really good, oiled it up, and it is ready to go. These are 272 Canadian dollars if I want to replace that, and I don't believe that I need to replace it. I got a brand new VVT actuator from Mazda, because that is a pretty critical component, and one that people say, it's never gone on any of my Mazda Speeds, and I've owned a lot of them, but apparently it likes to go at around 100,000 kilometers. So maybe it was done on some of the vehicles that I bought without me knowing, or maybe I just got lucky. I don't know. But that's the thing that goes there. And yeah, she is coming along. So I made a discovery. So this is actually painted, and I think I'm happy about that. I was considering painting this so that the aluminum wouldn't corrode over time, but that was already done. But it looks like in some places it wasn't actually that clean, so I hope they didn't just bury a bunch of corrosion. If they did, it's probably not much. They definitely did actually, you know, dip it. This does look super duper clean, but in some areas you can still see some crap and stuff. So that's why this looks so incredibly consistent, is because it was actually painted on top of. And I learned that whenever I was looking down these, it's really hard to like get light down there with my phone at the same time. But I was noticing like little bits of debris or particulate or something, and I was worried that it was grinding compound or something bad. But it turns out that it is actually, so you can see there the paint I sprayed down there with some chemicals to try and wash it out with the engine flipped upside down, and then when it came out, it melted the paint. So that's when I realized that it was paint. It's fine that this is painted. I'm actually kind of happy about that, but they got a little bit down these holes, which is not going to be that big of a deal. Tiny little lick of paint on first startup is not going to do anything. So I'm not going to bother cleaning out the rest of these holes because I thought it was something abrasive. But what's a little annoying is I'm moving on to do the injectors now. Sorry, the light's all messed up because I got my headlamp on right now. And they just painted my injector holes. That is annoying. That is annoying. So I got to get in there. I got to clean them anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But I do wish that they had covered that up. You can see up here, Yeah, so I wiped off the paint that was along here because it was no longer consistent because I melted some of it. But on the other side, you can see where they masked it off. I was wondering what I was looking at here, and yeah, they masked it off, so they didn't paint the inside of this. They're not completely stupid. They're not stupid at all, but that's kind of stupid, if you ask me. Build update. I'm continuing to pick away at this after work. I got this RTV'd on there, which I did after the other cam caps because it has a weird little strip of RTV on that side, so that oil doesn't flow out there. And I also cleaned up the fuel injectors and their seals. I'm reusing, there are expensive injector seals that these engines use, and they're made out of like a copper or aluminum mix, and anyway, they're really high-tech and expensive, and they say not to reuse them, but people have had success reusing them, and I'm reusing these ones for the second time. So hopefully they all seal properly. I think they will. I made sure that they're all in the exact same home, and they didn't even rotate compared to how they were before. And I torqued these down to 20 foot-pounds, and I think they were at 18 before. So that's something that I don't mind half-assing a little bit. They're like $300 for a set of seals, and you can totally reuse them most of the time. But anything that doesn't require a complete disassembly of the engine, I'm more willing to, try and save a little bit of money. So anyway, got the fuel injectors in there. I got these torqued down. I'm using the original bolts. I actually went out and I got a hardened socket or a hardened T45 for those this time. That is like non-negotiable. Don't use regular tool steel bits on these. You will destroy them. Mine are already kind of messed up and I had to hammer the bit in there to get them torqued down, but they are torqued down. And I got one, so there's these green gummy things, and that is what attaches the fuel injectors to the high pressure fuel rail, which is this thing right here. And it took quite a bit of elbow grease to get this to this point. It actually doesn't look too bad on camera. In person, I'm giving myself a hard time about it. Even though this lives underneath the intake manifold, but you can still see it. And on principle, anything that goes into this engine, I mean, so far, everything is absolutely pristine and painted and no rust, no dirt going back into this thing. We're trying to continue that with everything that I put on it. So, did a pretty good job cleaning this up. I ran some gas, I put some gasoline in it after I cleaned everything up. That included using some 1000 grit sandpaper on the insides of these holes. The insides of these holes are where these O-rings meet up with, and they get corroded over time, and what you're trying to avoid when you put this on is ripping these O-rings. It is really easy to do that, and I actually did it once, and then a week later my car was pissing gasoline out, and it wouldn't run anymore, and I had to get it towed, and it sucked. So we're making sure that we got, I'm putting assembly lube on there, but you could really use grease too. Just make sure that you got something so that it's not getting torn on its way in there. It needs to slide. So, one more gummy. This is all cleaned up. I went outside and I put some gasoline in it and I shook it around and dumped it all out and sprayed it out with the air compressor. So, hopefully none of that sanding dust got inside this thing. If it did, it should be gone now. And, yeah, put on engine. Here we go. There. I'm positive we didn't rip anything there. That felt very slick and smooth and delicious. And just like that, I hope this doesn't fall off, jump off or anything. Our engine is a fuel rail. Look at that shit. Look at our beautiful blued hardware, both on the injectors and the fuel rail. Hell yeah, dude. Man, it honestly is kind of crap that this kit for the adapter for this intake manifold, which we got on, I guess I should talk about this. I'm mocking this up tonight because it's kind of exciting. I get to think about where we're putting things in terms of the methanol injector and the throttle body and stuff. I guess I'll start rambling about this now. I want the methanol spray to be as distributed across the 4 cylinders as possible, and I would ideally like to have, there's a nozzle back there. I guess I can show you from the other side. There's a nozzle, AEMV3 methane nozzle. And I'd like to have it pointing straight in there from the back. I'm sure there's not room for me to do that at the front because the radiator is right here. So I was thinking about doing this location, but it would really be best if it was right in the center, versus if I were to have it coming in from one side. I feel like I would overfeed, you know, depending on how the spray went. You know, there could be differences left and right if I did it from, you know, the left or the right. It could overfeed this side or maybe this side, depending on how hard it's throwing it. But if I put it in the back, it will probably, like, yeah, it'll be right in the middle, and it will be split evenly. That is crucial because we are actually using the methanol as fuel. We're not going to be running any water in the system this time, I don't think. Last time my tuner had me run 100% methanol in the system, which the makers of the kit don't recommend, but my tuner recommended it and I didn't question it. I was like, okay. And that's what you do if you are really relying on this system. So you got to make sure that everything is working for every pull, or you will probably lean your engine out and it will go boom boom. So I'm wondering if there's enough room, and it's impossible for me to tell without having this in the car, if I can have the throttle body clocked this way, which will have this lumpy, bumpy guy sticking out of the front. I think there will be room, and if I do that, then I can put the methanol nozzle right in the center. So, yeah, what I actually wanted to talk about was, it sucks that there's no manual with this thing or instructions on what to do. You really just have to figure it out yourself. It is meant for people that know what they're doing, but even people that know what they're doing, there is a certain way that all this stuff is supposed to work, and they don't explain it at all. So I screwed around with the dipstick a little bit. The oil pan is just screwed on with 2 bolts. It's not RTV'd or anything. It's on there just because I was wondering, where is the dipstick? And the dipstick is a very important thing in this whole fitting together of the throttle body and stuff, because if you remember, the throttle body in the stock configuration is 90 degrees, so it would normally be like right here, but it's going straight down. And this is going to be a fun clearance challenge, because this is a 3-inch throttle body. It's an upgraded throttle body versus the 2.5 or 2.75, whatever the stock one is smaller. So, like, look at that. We're gonna probably have to do maybe we'll do a silicone reducer to 2.5, because the piping it needs to ultimately attach to is 2.5. Maybe I'll do a 2.5 reducer right there, and then I don't know. I probably shouldn't think about it too much without actually having this in the car. Anyway, I keep getting distracted. What I want to talk about is the fact that I think I read other people on the internet talking about how getting the map sensor, this is the thing that tells you how much pressure is in your intake manifold, mass air pressure sensor, map sensor, and why does this bolt hole not line up like at all? So this Bosch 3-bar map sensor used to have this little metal insert in there, and I was like, okay, that hole is like 50% off. So I took this out, and I did manage to ram a screw through there, but it didn't feel right. You see there? So I think what I'm gonna do is take this over to the drill press and take a 1/4-inch drill bit and just open up that area where the threads are smashing into it. And because I don't want this O-ring to be getting squished over to one side. I want things to be proper. One more problem solved. 999,000 more problems to go. Today it's a relatively nice day, so I figured I'd take advantage of it and come out into the tent and do some work on the car. I noticed that the rear sway bar links, these things, I already replaced one or maybe both of them, I forget. And this one is already having a lot of play in it. So I forget what brand it was. It might have been Moog, or it was probably the cheapest thing that I could find on Rock Auto. So I got some AC Delco ones, also from Rock Auto, but AC Delco stuff is as good as OEM. So I got those to put on there. And I just spent a million years getting all the right tools to take that apart. Man, I hate doing sway bar links, putting the thing in the end of the thread and hold it, and it's a pain in the ass. And maybe today I'll see if we can get our BC coilovers installed back here. At least the spring. I have a feeling that'll probably be a tomorrow thing. Let's just say that working on this side of the car is a little bit tight. But, you know, just think about cave divers crawling through those tiny little crevices where they can't even move their arms, you know? Just think about it that way. It's not even that tight. It's not even that tight. We're working on the car. We will build a garage soon. This thing is, like, not old. I might look up on Rock Auto when I bought this. And it's already doing that. Piece of junk. Pretty sure this was Moog. Maybe not. And this one, that might have been my fault. But, yeah, I'm replacing that. And up here, it is beginning to get a little bit of play. And there's no way that I could have caused that. Considering the, you know, everything else looks fine. Garbage. Okay, third time trying to record this clip. The first time my cat sank his claws into my foot. The second time the power flickered and it went out. And well, let's see what happens this time. So anyway, last time we talked about the engine. I was talking about methanol nozzle placement. And I wanted to put it directly at the back, if possible, to make the flow equal as possible between the 4 cylinders. Then I started reading online, and I got the idea in my head of doing methanol port injection, which would be 4 nozzles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have the spots for it in this adapter plate, so it's kind of tempting. But I emailed my tuner about the idea, and he said, yeah, there's really no point. It's not worth the money. I still kind of want to do it because it would look sick, but it would be like another $400 at least. So I'm going to listen to him. And he says that my concern about doing a single nozzle here, you know, he's not as concerned as I am. And if the tuner that knows this platform inside and out is not concerned about it, then I shouldn't be concerned about it. But I'm going to compromise. Instead of going with port methanol injection, which would be, you know, really cool but really expensive, I'm going to, instead of doing 1 nozzle straight at the back, I'm going to do 2 nozzles, 1 at each side. So we're going to do 2 nozzles, which is, it's only going to be like another $150, which in terms of this whole engine build is absolutely nothing. And then I will feel good knowing that the meth is, there is a homogeneous air and methanol mixture going into the 4 cylinders versus it spraying on just one side and overfeeding these 2 or overfeeding those 2 or I don't know. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to order another nozzle and we're going to put them in the throttle body spacer. And we're going to do 1 there. I'm going to do 1 there. Bang, bang. So that's the meth nozzle setup figured out. Next, what I need to do, I have a huge list of things that I need to do on this project. This is a big project for one person, but I'm enjoying it for the most part. Next, I need to grind the plastic down on this manifold. This is something that they tell you about in advance. That bolt hole is supposed to line up there, and it can't quite. This is the pulley, this is the dummy pulley that goes on a 2nd gen Mazdaspeed3 because it has electronic power steering, not hydraulic power steering. So normally this would be a power steering pump, but it's just a pulley. And there's just a little bit of shaving that needs to be done there. So it's this material right here needs to get shaved just a bit so that that can fit. So I need to do that. Another piece of the puzzle has arrived. The balance shaft delete and the baffle, which is highly recommended, I guess, if you do balance shaft delete. This is one of the nicer baffles that you can order. It was about $200, but check it out. It's got their logo in it, not that you can see it. It's completely on the inside of the engine, but it's got these flapper things that allow oil to flow towards where the pickup is, but not the other way. It's kind of neat. So, we now have everything we need to put this oil pan on. I cleaned all the rust off the outside and the inside of this, but I probably want to paint this because this is steel, the rest of it's aluminum. I'm just gonna leave it. It's on the underside of the engine. I'm not gonna worry about prettying it up any more than I already have. I just cleaned it with some Scotch-Brite. But yeah, maybe I'll clean that up a little bit more, give that some paint, and bolt that onto it. And I gotta put the oil strainer on it. And then yeah. So right there, that hole where you can kind of see some of my assembly lube in there, that's the oil port that needs to get blocked off, and there's the screw hole. And the block off kit looks like this, and it has an O-ring on it. And I tried everything that I could to not have this O-ring get chopped in half whenever, you know, it actually seals down into the hole where it's supposed to. But look what it did. Oh my god, that's unbelievably annoying. I could probably leave it like this, but I'm not gonna. So now I need to source another one of these O-rings, preferably a bunch of them, because I don't know what I'm gonna do differently this time to not shear it in half. But it really didn't want to go down there. I tried, like, there's really limited hand access in here, so I was pushing on it as hard as I could, massaging it in a circle, spinning it, everything that I could. Had it all lubed up with assembly lube, so that, you know, I tried everything. I don't know what I did wrong there, or what I'm going to do differently. That is so annoying. How lucky are we going to be with the old Princess Auto O-ring kit? That looks pretty similar. Probably a bit too chunky, I'm guessing. I'm pleased to announce that I think we fixed it without actually having to leave the house or wait longer. I used one of these ones, which, if you look at the portion of the original O-ring that didn't get sheared off, it's pretty much the same size, probably the exact same size. And this time what I used was a 10mm socket with an extension and some tape on the end to not mar up my brand new thingy with a nice logo on it. And I just applied light pressure and then went in circles until it eventually slipped down there, and I didn't see any O-ring bits shooting out this time. It's staying down there, and there's a light amount of resistance whenever I move it back and forth. So I know that the O-ring is engaging. Yay. I'm so confused right now. So I was just thinking about, I'm working up to putting the pickup tube back on this, and it's a brand new oil pump that's never seen any oil, and I thought it would be a nice idea to like prime it and put some oil down there. So I did, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to prime the tube or whatever that goes through here into the oil filter cooler assembly. And I noticed that this is not a normal thing to do, but it's not a bad idea. You would never notice this unless you did precisely what I did right now. There's weird orange bits. And I've been flushing this out for a little bit, but you can see them. What the hell is that? Where are those coming from, and what are they? They look to be like paint or something, or maybe some sort of dried up lubricant. Here's the oil pan with the baffle installed on it. Looks pretty sweet. This oil pan was completely cleaned out as best as I've ever gotten it. There's absolutely nothing on the inside of this. Before I put this on, and this is perfectly clean. And then I brake cleaned around the perimeter where I'm about to put RTV, and did the same thing on the engine. And checked in the manual to see what they recommend for how much sealant to put. About a 3mm diameter bead. So I'm going to try to not make a humongous mess. Again, I really love Damon's products, but they need to come with manuals. I just found the Cork Sport manual for their version of their baffle, because they make one as well, and they also make a balance shaft delete. And I read the instructions, and they say to put red thread lock on that. So, like, how was I supposed to know that that's a good idea? I mean, maybe they don't. I don't know. It would be nice if they would include instructions, that's all I'm saying. So I zipped that out of there, and I put a little bit of red thread lock on it, because, you know, this is the last chance I'm going to get to access that, and I can't not do it once I read that. Trying to do everything right. Normally I'd use, like, Permatex Ultra Gray, but I can't find it right now, and whenever I got the bottom gasket kit for the engine, it's Molly brand, and it came with their sealant, and apparently it's really good. So we're going to give this stuff a try. It smells weird. What does this smell like? It almost smells like vinegar. Anyway, check my work. It's supposed to be about a 2 or 3 mil bead. Sorry, the lighting sucks. And yeah, time for the moment of truth. I don't like doing this. It kind of stresses me out. Like, having the clock is ticking right now. We have a fair bit of time with our TV, but still. There's just the potential for making such a mess. And I know that I have to finagle this in and around the new baffle. Okay. We've made touchdown, and we're only a couple mil off, so we haven't made a mess at all, I don't think. Time to put in all the bolts and torque them in sequence. This oil pan is the thing. It's probably the dirtiest part of the engine that's going back together, but it's on the bottom of the engine. I really couldn't be effed to worry about cleaning out all the inside of there. If I was a smarter man, I would have brought this to the machine shop and they would have just made it perfect. But I didn't, so I cleaned it myself. Still way better than it was, but it ain't perfect. But no one's gonna know except for you and me, because all this stuff is, you know, the engine is upside down right now. It's all torqued down, and I think I'm quite happy with the lack of a mess that we made. We have a nice consistent squish. So now, we need to do a bunch of chain-related stuff that involves our expensive diamond shim washer things that lock the crankshaft against the timing gear that prevents it from eating itself. These stupid things, these are 28 Canadian dollars plus tax for every single one, and you need 3 of them. I'm just salty about that. That is ridiculous. But it goes together like that. So that's those. 1, 2, 3. They're a single-use item. So, like, if I screw up something and I have to loosen it, according to the rules, I have to spend $100 on 3 of these stupid goddamn things again. But I guess it's a diamond washer. It has diamond in it. That still doesn't explain why these are so expensive in Canada. They're like $10 US in the States, but in Canada they're 28 bucks. Like, that's, fuck you. So these need to be completely dry. And so that's the first surface that it mates up against. So crankshaft, washer, then gear for oil pump, then another one of those, then gear for timing chain, then another one of those. So you have to put all that together. Then, with that not torqued down or anything, because you can't yet, you have to put the timing cover on over it, and then you can put the crankshaft pulley on there and tighten it down to 1,000,000 foot-pounds. This is basically, if anybody here is watching that also watched me assemble rotaries, there's a 54 mil massive nut that's torqued to 300 foot-pounds on the rotary. This is kind of the equivalent of that, but on an inline 4. This inline 4. This goes to 75 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees, which ends up being over 200 foot-pounds. It's not quite 300, but it's a lot. And you have to be really careful to not damage anything when you do that. And you have to make sure that everything stays in time when you do that. So I want to do a little bit more research. I have done this before, but I was a little bit of an idiot back then. I probably didn't do it quite right. It worked, but I probably broke some rules. And this time I want to make sure that we do it absolutely right, because if we do this wrong, this whole thing eats itself. and this whole project will go down the toilet. So we need to make sure that this is done right. Behold the $30 diamond-encrusted washer that prevents every Mazdaspeed and Ford 2.3 from eating itself. And probably a bunch of other engines as well. You know I'm serious when I got the gloves out. Alright, so we got the oil pump sprocket on there, and it has to go on at the same time with the chain, so it's a bit of a balancing act with your hands, but it's not too bad getting the chain in between the guide and the guide. And, yeah. Now I gotta tighten this bolt to spec. And we can add another diamond washer and continue our stack. We got our 2 chains. So this one I never had to loosen. So we're basically starting with this one, and then we're going to put the other one on, but we're not going to torque it down until the timing cover is on. And then after timing cover is on, we put on crankshaft pulley bolt, and it squishes all this stuff down and hopefully stays locked relative to itself until I take it off again and doesn't eat itself. I'm doing absolutely the best job I can keeping this stuff dry and clean, and I'm capturing it on video, so hopefully everything goes well. Alright, here's our brand new VVT actuator from the Mazda dealership. Also from the Mazda dealership we got our expensive diamond encrusted washer. Everything is absolutely as clean as I can possibly get it, and including the bolts, and because I really don't want to have engine oil like leak out onto this stuff before I torque it down. That would be very bad, so I'm intentionally not putting oil on either of the chains. I'm assembling it dry, and they'll get lubed up within like 1 revolution. So this surface is perfectly clean, which is what needs to mate against that side of that diamond washer. Alright, so it's a little bit unconventional that I never untorqued this and I'm just leaving it from last time. You know, I didn't want to have to buy a diamond washer if I didn't have to. So in order to put everything together, I removed the tensioner again. I'd already torqued it, but I took it off, and that allowed me to get everything together. It's hard to explain, but you know, it's difficult getting everything into where it wants to be. It kind of all wants to go on at the same time, which isn't really possible. So I took this off so that this guide could swing out this way, and then I was able to get the chain over the actuator and get it in there. So this is not torqued down whatsoever. It's still free to rotate. So we're going to, I think the next step is we remove, I just took a drill bit that was the right size. We remove that, and then the tensioner goes patwang, and it retensions the chain. And then I put my tool over here that locks the camshaft. That one and that one, it locks them like that. And then I can torque this down, which is, I think, like 75, or no, I think it's like 50 foot-pounds. Something like that. Super awesome having all this stuff printed off. So, where is it? I don't know why I'm including this on video. Yeah, 55 foot-pounds. Alright, I got kind of confused there for a minute, but I think we're back on track. I made my own timing tool about a week ago because the official one is expensive, and literally it just needs to be a 3/16 flat thing that can index with that notch and that notch. And there was a little bit of extra room, so I shoved another piece of steel in there. I know this seems sketchy whenever we're doing timing stuff, but literally all it needs to do is hold it like that, and then this comes off and doesn't need to do the job anymore. So it's mint. Cost me like 20 bucks for this piece of steel. And yeah, I got kind of confused because I tightened this down like literally just with my fingers like that, and that was enough to make it so that this was basically locked and I couldn't turn it. So whenever I was trying to rotate the cam to get this in place, it didn't want to because this was sort of on there, just barely. So I think I just experienced what the diamond friction material does. I literally tightened it down like to nothing, and that was enough to lock it so that I couldn't even turn this with a wrench. The chain was binding up, so, but I backed that off, And now we are nice and free. So, moment of truth. One of the moments of truth is we're going to take this, it's a drill bit, we're going to take that out of there, and it is going to release the tensioner. Oh, yeah. Nice and tight. So that has set this in exactly where it needs to be. Now I can tighten this bolt. It is time. So I gotta counter hold it. Oh man, it's like super storming outside right now, like really, really bad. And I think my wrench is inside the Speed 3 shelter, which has like 2 feet of snow in front of it. We have applied the sealant according to the directives. A 3mm bead all the way a 3mm bead around the entire thing, and like a 2mm bead around these. I kind of squish those ones around with my finger. What they're trying to say is don't put a shitload there. So I was going to go to bed now and torque this later, but I made the last minute decision to put red Loctite on the threads of this bolt, which is fine, but that means that I have to torque it down right now. If I let that red Loctite set and then I torque it, it's not going to be at the spec, it's not going to be as tight as it's supposed to be, because the resistance is coming from the thread lock, not from things squishing. So I got to do this now. Here is my approach for locking the engine from spinning. So you cannot leave all of the, so there's a pin here that leaves it at top dead center, and then there's the things that lock the camshafts there. If you leave those there and try and torque this to its final spec, you will destroy things, like big time. You will crack the end of that off, and you will potentially bust the block, or if you're lucky, you'll squish this pin. So what you do is you torque this down to like, I torqued it to like 30 with that stuff in there. Then I took it out, and now we're gonna do the final torquage. And we're not relying on the things that are for setting the timing. We are relying on what would be the flywheel. So hopefully nothing bad happens. Okay, so I did it to 75 foot-pounds, and then you need to go another 90 degrees. So I've marked 90 degrees on the bolt. I guess I'm assuming that the washer's not going to spin. Maybe that's not a safe assumption. Let me mark the pulley itself. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, right in my ass. Heyo! Alright, that was every bit as difficult as I expected it to be. But we did it. So it was there at 75 foot-pounds, and then you got to do 90. And I actually did like a kiss more than 90. Just because if this ever lets loose, the whole engine's going to blow up. So it's got red thread lock on it. It's been done to 93 degrees, roughly. 87 to 93 is acceptable. And what would you say is between the top dot and the tape? 90 something. I think we're looking good. So you're supposed, whenever you set the timing, that needs to go in there. That pin needs to be in there that puts it at top dead center, which it is. So that's awesome. Excuse me, that's awesome. And over here, that is aligned, and that is aligned. So none of our stuff moved. I didn't expect it to, but I had to verify. And the timing is set on our Mazdaspeed engine.